Love, the Activity of the Life Force by Claude Bragdon, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. Love, the Activity of the Life Force. The mystics' affirmation that love is the law of God, and the scientists that polarity, the sundering of a force into two quantitatively different and opposed activities striving after reunion, is a constant characteristic of all phenomena, are identical statements expressed differently. For what are phenomena but appreciable operations of a life force which, being beyond definition or description, might appropriately be called God? And what is love but polarity? The only aspect of love with which I shall here concern myself is that existing between the personality and the life force. Every individual life is a dramatization of this love in time and space. The conscious life of the individual may be said to truly begin only when this is realized. Before such realization comes, he is like a deaf person at a play. He sees it, but without understanding it, or else he gives it the wrong interpretation. The purpose of this mask of life is to bring about such realization. For the human comedy is a charade, because it has no other point nor meaning than that word which is its raison d'etre, the word which at all times is being revealed, even while it is being concealed. This charade is in one act, if we leave reincarnation out of account, and innumerable scenes, the individual life cycle. The chief protagonist is the individual self, who is both actor and spectator, and the other characters are everyone from first to last encountered during that life cycle. The key word is love. Therefore, love is the theme, the mainspring of every action, and all relations between the protagonist and the other people of the play are love relations, no matter how little they appear so. For love is protean and assumes innumerable disguises. Hate is love turned inside out. Envy is love for what is another's. Jealousy is the fear of the loss of love. Friendship is love like a lake instead of like a river. Pride is that self-love which is self-righteous, and love for others is only too often self in others still preferred. The people who affect one's life are merely dramatizations of one's own self-elements, seen through the coloured gelatines of personal hopes, fears, expectations, thoughts, desires. They are never seen as they are in their true colours, and their actions are reactions of one's own. When the idea dawns that the world is a hall of mirrors in which the hurrying throng and the confronted stranger are alike reflections of oneself, that a change of habit of mind alters the appearance of everything, escape from this crystal maze becomes the dominant desire. Every mirror is not only a wall which confines, but a door which liberates, and love is the open sesame, the word which opens them. This is exactly what Buddha and Christ came to teach, and we have failed to learn. This is what life itself is tirelessly engaged in teaching, and still we do not learn. What one does to another, one does to oneself, though time may delay the repercussion, and what one does to oneself is done to the life force. The habit of mind of this particular time cycle, cynical, sceptical, still bloody with war, still festering with old ethnic hates, is to regard love as a thing suspect, debilitating to virtue, both in the ancient meaning of the word, which is manly, and in the modern, chaste. But the exact opposite of this is true. Love strengthens virtue. In the Middle Ages, the word gentleman was invented to describe the knight or baron so brave, so noble, so highly privileged and endowed that he could afford to indulge in the then dangerous and costly luxury of magnanimity and kindness, which others could not, who loved God and his lady. And as it was then, so it is now in this essential. Love is to him who overcometh, to the fearless, to the strong. Love seems a weakness, seems debilitating only to the spiritually flabby and nearsighted. Time pales the glory of the great conquerors and enslavers of mankind, but to its great lovers time always adds new lustre. Christ outshines Caesar and Buddha Tamerlane. Love is a talent to be kept constantly in circulation for increment and enrichment, not of oneself but of life itself, that Lord of those servants, the life force. Only thus can it work its miracles in and through the personality, for only then is it true love. It is told of a famous Oriental holy man that in his youth his master found him too selective, fastidious and self-centred. To remedy this, he was told to pour out love on everyone he chanced to meet, to bathe that person with the unfailing stream of loving thought. We wait for love to come to us when we should find it within ourselves by loving. We exact the return of love, though it is of love's essence to seek no return, for love is largesse and not trade. This is the reason why love seems to fail so often. True love has not had a chance to operate. Love is the action of the life force upon the personality, the totality of all its action. As such, it both limits and liberates from limitation. It limits by reason of the operation of the law of karma, which decrees that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It liberates by its own self-originative action in and through the personality. In all this, there is an entire absence of coercion. Never for a moment is the personality prevented from doing what it wills, for the very essence of love is freedom, but action against itself is in its nature binding. And yet, this very action against itself on the part of the personality is in evidence of its inherent freedom. For if it failed to assert that freedom in all ways, how could it know itself to be really free? The first pair, who ate the fruit which was forbidden, the prodigal, who left the house of his father and lived with the swine, the wife who unlocked Bluebeard's chamber, these are all symbols of the assertion of free will. They have our instant comprehension and concurrence, because we are even as they. There are rewards for other things than virtue. There is danger in safety. It is better to have loved and lost than never have lost at all. Lead us not into temptation is a prayer which never is and never ought to be answered, and the only deliverance from evil is self-deliverance through love. Re-evaluations of old religions and philosophies, reinterpretations of old parables and myths, vindications of discredited cosmoconceptions, like Einstein's unconscious vindication of Heraclitus, who declared that fire was the only element and that everything was in a state of flux. These things are interesting, but get us nowhere, for they are games of the mind, that devil of the modern world, which tempts us to work out its crossword puzzles so that we shall forget to look for the way of escape from it and from ourselves, which is through love. All the ills from which we suffer and which history records are caused by limitations, misunderstandings and defects of love. Christ came to benefit the whole world, not merely Christian, but the love of him took the form of hatred of the infidels, whom the Crusaders piously slew by thousands in the streets of that very city of Jerusalem where he was crucified. The Sicilian Vespers and the St. Bartholomew's Day massacres were instituted in the name of Christ. It is small wonder that he declared, "Ye choose that I come with a sword." Our lack of love for animals is responsible for our cruelty to them, and for those stockyards and slaughterhouses which pollute the air of Chicago for 20 miles around. Our lack of love for trees has brought about that deforestation which is the cause of aridity and floods, and our lack of love for beauty is responsible for the soul-stifling ugliness of our cities and the vulgarization of the countryside. The fact that these are truisms does not make them any less true or any less important. What it all signifies is the personality's persecution of the life force on a vast scale. And this is nothing other than self-torment, the organisation and idolatry of death. For death, life is the antidote, and of life, love is a synonym. It was the voice of the crucified love which cried, "I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly."